All right. Welcome on into another action-packed and live edition of the Between the Hashmarks podcast. As always, I'm Matt Lombardo, joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, the purveyor of the Too Deep Zone, Mike Tanier is here. And Michael, as has been the case the last couple of weeks, we actually have some news to sink our teeth into on this podcast. What a great feeling here with training camp well underway.
What a great feeling to get the news 20 minutes early rather than 20 minutes late when you run a podcast. And we're talking about the shocking developments out of Eagan, Minnesota, where the Minnesota Vikings have chosen a starting quarterback. Are you shocked?
I am not at all shocked. I am not at all surprised. If I am mildly shocked about anything, to mimic the meme, it's that Kevin O'Connell actually ended the charade for the public a couple of weeks after he ended the charade with his team. And we'll get into that. We'll get into what this means for the Vikings, what it means for the division, but a little bit of housekeeping for you. If you enjoy the podcast, please go ahead and subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store. Leave us those 5-star ratings and reviews. They really do help grow the show. It makes us easier to find in the algorithm, boosts us up the rankings and all of those things. You can check us out on iHeartRadio. Subscribe there. Subscribe on your Alexa app and Amazon Music. And, of course, check out and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Matt Lombardo975. And, you know, Mike, we're going to get into the quarterback controversies and quarterback position battles, but I just need to put a pin in this right here.
Yeah.
That your column on Monday pointing out what was going on in Minnesota, the state of the quarterback competition, in air quotes, in Cleveland, was one of the most thorough pieces of football journalism that I've read this summer. It was great. It was insightful. It was just sarcastic enough that I knew that it came from you. It was terrific. So if you enjoy that kind of coverage, please go ahead and subscribe to the Too Deep Zone. And you can subscribe at betweenthehashmarks.com as well if you enjoy my work and my brand of reporting and the features and insights and all those things. But at least one head coach came to his senses today, Mike, and ended the quarterback competition probably about when it should have ended on any normal timeline.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The way Kevin O'Connell had been speaking for weeks, going back to minicamp, he was signaling through sources, he was saying it directly, that they were going to run the clock on this, that we wouldn't find out until like the end of August, that we'd go through all 3 preseason games. And increasingly, as the weeks went on, it became more and more obvious. The thing that was obvious the moment the Vikings acquired Kyler Murray, that he was going to be the starter, and that everything else was this sort of pantomime of going through due diligence and all that. Instead of doing that before the first preseason game, which is Saturday afternoon, made the decision. And it came on the backs of several practices in a row where either Murray won the practices or, based on what I'm hearing out of Eagan, the defense won the practices. It doesn't matter who the quarterbacks are because both of them aren't that good, but Kyler is still the better choice.
Oh, no doubt about it. And I've covered the league for now 15 going on 16 seasons. And I've been through enough of these as a beat reporter, whether it was for the Giants or the Eagles back when it was Carson Wentz against Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
You always listen to what the coach does, not what the coach says during training camp. And, you know, we both wrote about this in our Monday columns. According to Andrew Kramer of the Star Tribune, as of last week, it was like middle of last week, Kyler Murray had already taken 66% of the first team snaps, and he took 18 of 25 first team reps in a single practice. So to me, the former beat writer in me, my spidey sense started tingling at that moment that, hey, no matter if Kevin O'Connell sits and spends 5 minutes at the podium espousing the virtues of J.J. McCarthy, if he's giving 66% of the snaps to Kyler Murray, Murray's going to be the guy, and it's about time we call game here. And today they finally did.
That's it. I would see Andrews reports daily, and that kept happening. It's like more reports are in, and like 25 more starters reps for Murray, 6 for J.J. McCarthy. And then, you know, in my piece, there was one of the other local beats there who tells the story of during installs. When Kyler Murray's doing installs, he's out there, doing screen passes and running things and running everything. And then when it was McCarthy's time to do the install, O'Connell came in and kind of took over, kind of like when my kids were learning how to drive and we get close to I need you to pull over now. We're getting close to the highway. I'm going to take over for a while and you can take back over. That's what that's what O'Connell was doing with McCarthy, which if that was a rookie, it wouldn't have been that big a deal. That's your third-year vet who started a bunch of games last year and was supposed to be your quarterback of the future. That was another signal that this was coming, that this was imminent.
And there are a lot of ways that you can read into this and what it means for the Vikings on the field, right? And what Kyler Murray adds with his athleticism, his escapability. We might actually see that vertical arm strength matter with Justin Jefferson, everything that happens on the field. But if we want to go like deep insider baseball here, this almost like screams into the bullhorn from Kevin O'Connell. I did not draft J.J. McCarthy. He was not my guy. Because if J.J. McCarthy was the guy that Kevin O'Connell pounded the table for, this might have gone through August. They might have given him every chance to win this job, every chance to be the starting quarterback. This tells me this was a Kwesi pick, and maybe the fact that this blew up in their face so significantly last season, that J.J. was so far away from being ready or being competent, that maybe drafting J.J. McCarthy was one of the main reasons Kwesi was fired in Mobile during Senior Bowl week.
That's what everyone wants you to believe. And once the guy's fired, you can throw everything into his inbox. Oh, all the mistakes were in his inbox. Success has 1,000 fathers, failure's an orphan. I don't know who's what, but I think Kevin O'Connell has definitely divorced himself from any McCarthy. Like last year we were hearing, behind the scenes, like unbelievable work ethic, preparation. While McCarthy is rehabbing the injuries, he's learning so much from O'Connell. Now it's kind of like, you know what? Murray gives us the best chance to win, so see you later. That's the end of that controversy. I think we're reaching the end of the Falcons controversy because Michael Penix can't actually participate in regular drills right now. And we're left with the Browns stinker, which I think is just going to continue on and be a lot of lying and misrepresentation and ickiness for like days to come.
Yeah, and that's one where, the defense looks like it has the chance to be elite, has the chance to throw its weight around as it has in years past. And I just can't get jazzed up about that situation. When you're looking at Shedeur Sanders, who everybody inside the league viewed so much differently as a prospect than fans and analysts did going into the draft. You have Dylan Gabriel hanging around the quarterback room, and you have Deshaun Watson, who, as you wrote in the column, has been basically irrelevant for the last 4 or 5 years, at least from a football standpoint. I just can't get amped up. And I love that you dedicated so much space to it in the column and you called it for what it was. I just can't get all in on the Browns quarterback battle really mattering.
And we talked about, and we're going to talk later about your trip to camp and all the things that you see when you're at camp that you don't see when you're out here in the ether, when you're sitting at your desk like I am right now. And like everything I reported is on the backs of people who are in Berea, Ohio, or talking to people who are in Berea, Ohio every day, all the local beat writers, reporters, etc. And, they'll say one thing in terms of, well, this is how I think it's going to go, or here's what the coach said. And then you'll get like just straight lines like, Watson has at least looked like he kind of understands the basics twice in the last 3 days. And you realize this isn't really a competition. This is the lesser of two evils. And that it looks like the finger is on the scale a little bit. Well, Watson is a $250 million investment. They're trying to amortize the losses, et cetera, et cetera. Schefter is out there saying, well, he's the veteran and they start their season on the road, all this other stuff. There's no reason to get enthusiastic. You can get enthusiastic about the Vikings because you can look at Flores' defense, Justin Jefferson, Addison. You've seen this team win games with Sam Darnold, et cetera. Oh, yeah, they could suddenly blow up with a competent quarterback, win 11, 12 games. They've done it several times in the past. Browns are the Browns. Not without Myles Garrett, I don't see that happening. With an offense full of rookies and a rebuilt line, I don't see that happening. It's now just a weird rubbernecker thing to keep an eye on how bad it's going to be.
And in that division where the Bengals made significant resources to make sure that their defense is better, where the Steelers are the Steelers, and you have, Cam Hayward and TJ Watt, and you brought in some reinforcements on the back end of the defense to bolster a secondary that took its lumps last year. The Ravens are the Ravens. And no matter how good or mediocre at best that Browns defense is, it's going to be difficult for that offense in those division games at the very least.
No, and they had a good defense in the last couple of years. And yes, one year they did pull it together behind Joe Flacco and get to the playoffs, and like 10 weird things happened. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case this year. By the way, one of the other bits of news come out Tuesday afternoon before the first preseason game. Joe Burrow and the starters are playing on Friday night, I think.
Friday
night for the Bengals against the Lions. Last year, when the Bengals started their starters in the preseason, Burrow threw 2 touchdown passes in the first game. So if you want to show up and see like the whiz bang, oh my gosh, it's Chase, it's Higgins, Dexter Lawrence will play. Apparently, it's Burrow. You'll probably see that against the Lions' third stringer. So it doesn't mean much, but if you want to see a little fireworks display, I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, Joe Burrow loves playing in the preseason. He went to Zach Taylor last year and lobbied to get those first team reps to play a quarter, play a half, play in these meaningless exhibition games.
Mm-hmm.
But, it all comes down to, can he stay healthy in the regular season? And, I'm not big on the preseason football. Like I'll watch, because I'm a sicko, I'll watch you check in on the NFL Network and see which games are being streamed or the live look-ins. But then I'll go and I'll like read a book or something. I just have trouble diving into preseason games, but getting to see Joe Burrow and those offense put on some fireworks, it's like a little appetizer for the regular season. It's an appetizer for what we're going to see in about a month.
Yes, and you made the appetizer sicko fingers with it. Yeah, that is what it is. Like enjoy it. You want to see what it looks like for real, and those guys will give you that opportunity, and that will be fun. And don't read too much into it. Remember, Burrow had 2 starts last year, and the second one, the Commanders beat the daylights out of him, and Taylor left him in the game. Yeah. Which was crazy. And of course, Burrow was hurt by week 2. You don't want to say one caused the other, but it's like, try to find the happy medium, Zach Taylor. You've only been coaching this team for like 9 years. Can you figure out the difference between no one even goes near the field and then you start the season 0-2 and the starters play like it's like 1981 and like they have to play through like 4 preseason games and all, and then everybody's hurt at the end. There's probably a balance somewhere in between you can find.
And that this is happening in the backdrop of an era where coaches will tell you at the podium and general managers will whisper to you and tell you in text messages how much they value joint practices more than the preseason games. That if coaches could just have a week of joint practices and not even play the games and not even have that film go out to all 32 teams from the games, they would sign up for that at every chance they can get. It's very interesting that the Bengals take this approach. And what's even more telling is that today, apparently, in Florham Park, Geno Smith was intercepted not once, not twice, but 3 times by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Jets-Bucs joint practices. And listen, I kind of fell for the Jets enthusiasm because of all the assets and all the draft picks and everything they had at their disposal last offseason and what they did in March and April. Man, if you're trotting Geno Smith out there and he's throwing 3, he's supposed to be the adult in the room of the quarterbacks. Right. Like he's supposed to be the upgrade over Cade Klubnik. Like if he's throwing 3 picks in joint practices, I don't know, man. It just seems like you're not going to make enough progress. And I don't want to overreact here to joint practices. I don't want to overreact. But if he's throwing 3 picks on the practice field, how much hope do we give Aaron Glenn of lasting 3 weeks?
Not much. How did backup Cade Klubnik do?
I'd have to ask around on that because I wasn't at the.
We were not there. Obviously, we'll get things like that. I hear the name Cade Klubnik, and it's just like no, Klubnik, no. That's like a Mel Brooks character. That is not a person. And I saw him at Clemson. I saw him when he had these good games at Clemson. I'm aware of who he is, but that's what's going on. For the Jets, I have been keeping track of a couple of things. David Bailey, the edge rusher, looked amazing, but he's hurt. Yep. He's hurt. Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end. We're pretty excited about him. He's hurt. He has a hernia situation, that surgery they had in the offseason. And we haven't heard much from Omar Cooper. So, like, here's your 3 first-round picks, 2 injured guys, and a guy who's kind of just like, oh, yeah, he's here. He's fine. Let's tell you more about Cade Klubnik and how he's been doing and how Geno Smith is throwing interceptions. I do love seeing joint practice information. I saw a bunch of news coming out of Foxborough where the Colts and the Patriots were having their joint practices. I think the Lions are having a joint practice. I think I saw
with the Bengals. They are, yes. And what's really interesting is that you talk to these executives, and they'll use these joint practices because you get to tape them. It's just like a game where, like, if it's game film, it goes out to all 32 teams. But if you're having a joint practice, you get that practice tape. So in the next 2 weeks, when you're looking to, upgrade the bottom of your roster and decide who you're going to cut to not make the 53, you get to look at, the Buccaneers. If you're the Jets, you get to look at the Buccaneers' bottom of their players you had in your building practicing against you. You get to evaluate those dudes, and they get to evaluate your dudes. And, we're going to talk later on about the situation with the Commanders. It wouldn't shock me if you see some of these guys who are injured that in 2-3 weeks guys that get cut by the Dolphins might wind up claimed by the Commanders because of something they saw on the practice field in these joint practice sessions.
Right, and you and I have attended them, and we've seen it where it's like, yeah, the one against the one cornerbacks get to do one-on-ones for a while, and 7-on-7s for a while, so they get a bunch of reps, and the 3 against the 3, so they get to size each other up a little bit, and they're not familiar with each other, and they haven't been doing this since April, and so all these things line up. I wish that more of that was televised, and I'm not talking about the NFL Network doing a look-in and showing a highlight or something like that. Put it on. Put it on. You're taping it. It doesn't have to be super great, but when the 7s and the 11s are on, put it on TV, put it on NFL Plus. We spend a lot of money for NFL Plus, NFL Pro, so we can look at it as well, so we get a better sense of it, so that when the time comes, when there's preseason games, it's not like, oh, he took 3 snaps in the preseason game, let's try to break that down, but we heard all these great things from the coaches about how good he was in joint practice.
Yeah, even if you don't give us the full 11 on 11, even if you want to protect the game film where you're running your plays and you're scripted from the playbook, give me the one-on-ones. Give me the one-on-ones. Give me the 7-on-7s. I think that would be great, because I think that you can tell a lot about a guy in a one-on-one situation. You can tell a lot about a quarterback or his timing with his receivers, or where you are in terms of the cohesion that you're trying to build in those 7-on-7 reps.
Absolutely. You get a lot more opportunity to evaluate these guys separately. And yeah, sure, you want to protect the 11-on-11s. There's fans at these things most of the time.
Yeah.
If there's fans there, then there could be somebody there with a little go glasses or whatever you call that, and they're recording your top secret. Oh my gosh, it's a pass into the flat. You captured our secrets. There's no secrets in the NFL. Make this stuff a little bit more available.
For sure. And of course, I'm back. I'm in the home office today off of the first leg of the training camp tour. We went out to Latrobe, and we went down to Owings Mills. We've got a look in on the Steelers, a look in on the Ravens. 2 really interesting situations. And, we're going to get into both kind of individually. But as I touched on in the column, Mike, it was really interesting because Saturday in Owings Mills, they had new Ravens running backs coach, Kevin Faulkner, at the podium after Marlon Humphrey and Justice Hill and the new head coach Jesse Minter. Faulkner told a great story that he was the former, as of last season, running backs coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He obviously gets wiped out when Mike Tomlin gets fired.
Right.
But he had a Zoom interview for the Ravens running back job, and they end the Zoom call, and 3 minutes later, Faulkner said that his phone started ringing. It was Mike Tomlin who told him that he was just hired by the Ravens, that he aced the interview and he got the job. That's how tight Jesse Minter is with Mike Tomlin, that it was Tomlin who broke the news that the Ravens were hiring a new running backs coach.
That's one of the great reminders of what a sewing circle. The coaching fraternity is, everybody knows everybody else. Everyone's texting everybody else. It's like middle school among these guys to a degree where Tomlin doesn't even wait the 2 hours.
No.
It's like, let's let Minter tell the story. Like, nah, I got to mog my old pal here by telling him I know more what's in his mind than he is. That's amazing. But you talked a little bit about the changes that have been going on since Minter, who is a bit of a Harbaugh disciple, replaced John Harbaugh down there.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And, the word that you kept hearing from people was accountability. And, there was one quote that really jumped off the page. I'm standing there Saturday, and Marlon Humphrey was at the podium, and the beat writers were like, oh, this is probably the only time we're going to talk to Marlon Humphrey until week 1. Yeah. Well, let's just say Marlon Humphrey emptied the clip in terms of what he gave reporters at that media session. Mm-hmm. This quote summed it up to me, because he went on and on about how quickly Jesse Minter squashes drama, doesn't let things fester, addresses things head on. Marlon Humphrey said, quote, "You can tell when a coach is being honest. Even though there are coaches, we're all grown men. So you know when a man's lying to you, you know when a man's telling the truth. I think that's a big key. That's something we talk about in our room all the time. There will be no gray. It's black or it's white. There is no gray. We can't have gray because that causes confusion, and then you get colorblind. So it's really good. I think how Jesse's kind of running things, I really like it," unquote. I think that speaks as much about John Harbaugh as it does about Jesse Minter, does it not?
Remember where we're going on Thursday?
Yeah, I'm aware.
I'll say this because, we always do the new culture story when the new coach comes in.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's like, well, Minter is restoring the culture from John Harbaugh in Baltimore. Meanwhile, in New York, John Harbaugh is restoring the culture. So what happens often is that the change is good, especially the long tenured coaches, Tomlin, Harbaugh. Things can get stale. And the
Yes.
things that those coaches are not particularly good at or have gotten a little blind to, as you talk about being colorblind, those things tend to fester and propagate and become more of a problem. A guy like Humphreys might see that. So it's very possible that Minter can come in and say, boy, I'm cleaning up some mistakes that someone like Harbaugh was letting slide in the past because he'd been there so many years and had no longer realized what was going on. And that Harbaugh at the same time is going in, he's rejuvenated, he's refreshed, he realizes, oh my goodness, I let some things slide back there, or look at all the things that were let slide by the last three goofballs that were here that I would never have let go. And that these changes are good. Andy Reid was the fine example. When he went from Philadelphia to the Chiefs, suddenly it seemed like he was a whole new coach, whereas at the same time, the Eagles felt refreshed by having a different voice in there.
Yeah, it's kind of that tangible evidence of what a coach told me as part of the survey to look out for the Ravens, because you had a longtime head coach, a new head coach coming in, things might have gotten stale. I think that you're starting to see and hear the players kind of open up about what that means, what it feels like on the day-to-day basis. Justice Hill, to his credit, he kind of sidestepped things and said that, he wants to wait until the live bullets start flying, like when you start to play another team and you're in a game situation. How do you react? What happens when you're not beating up against a guy wearing your same helmet and same uniform day after day after day? What happens then? But it's absolutely the honeymoon phase. That's just what's happening here. But it is interesting that you hear Humphrey talk about Jesse Minter running meetings, like position group meetings, like former defensive backs coach, so he gets it. Defensive coordinator, so he gets it. But the fact that your head coach is in those meetings, running the meetings from time to time, that's going to instill the accountability right off the bat, because that's big boss at the front of the room, right? You're not going to be slacking off, or you're not going to finger point at some of your teammates or at the coaches or at the scheme with big boss right there, So it's interesting to me just how different these coaches try to instill the culture right out of the chute and the impact that it could have immediately.
And on a team full of veterans that were generally playoff level veterans who know what they're doing, shaking things up can be a very big positive. I don't know how helpful that is in a situation like the Jets, where no one can play football. But when it's Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson and Marlon Humphrey and those guys, it's like shaking them a little good. It's no different than you get a different editor, different boss, a different principal when you're a teacher, and you'll get the refreshing new thing. You're like, oh, this is refreshing. I hated it when the old boss did that. Then you get the kick in the pants thing. And if you're a professional, it's like, I just got kicked in the pants. I don't like getting kicked in the pants. Oh, maybe I was getting complacent too. Maybe I needed that. Maybe we all need to have the burn the saddle a little bit. Hopefully that's what Minter is bringing in Baltimore. I'm curious, by contrast, is McCarthy like running meetings in Pittsburgh? Is he going up there and taking on lots and lots of extra work? Is that something you've been hearing?
I did not hear that was going on. No,
Okay.
I did not hear that. But what was interesting was it seems like a less efficient practice. No, I'm just going to put this out there that it was a different setup than what they're used to. It was a different practice script, because I was there on a day where there were thunderstorms in the area.
Okay.
They had to close the practice to fans, so they weren't doing as many individual drills. It was kind of a hair on fire situation. But it just didn't seem like last year with Mike Tomlin. It seemed there was always like run to the next drill, run to the next drill. It seemed maybe a little more physical. They did what they called a smackdown drill, where they put the ball on the 25-yard line and you went, like you moved the football.
Okay.
It was as live as you could be without pads being on. I thought that was interesting. But it didn't seem like Mike McCarthy was quite as hands-on as Jesse Minter is down there in Baltimore.
I would be shocked if he was.
Right?
I would be shocked. And different coaches have different practice styles. We saw Chip Kelly practices, which were sometimes that translated into success, sometimes not. Jason Garrett ran incredibly sharp practices. Like that was really his thing. Everything seemed to be moving well. It didn't change some of the other limitations Jason Garrett had, but that's a curious approach. But you're right. If you're there in the thunderstorms and things like that, they might have had to cut things in half, cut things in quarters, shorten things, etc. That could have played a factor in what was going on. Let me ask you this. Did you see Aaron Rodgers play defense at all? That's gone viral.
I did not. I didn't see Aaron Rodgers on the pass rush. I don't know if they
Okay.
did that just for the fans at that like night practice they had
Right.
the day or two after I was there. But you look at the Steelers right now, and I think that the biggest uncertainty is quarterback two, right? Because Aaron Rodgers is the guy, and the timing looks great, and we'll get into a couple of the receivers who are breaking out. But Aller, I think he has a leg up in that quarterback two competition. Had a really nice timing throw over the middle in 7-on-7s where it just popped, and it was like, oh wow, okay, like that's the type of throw you want to see a guy make in traffic in a game situation. Will Howard, by contrast,
Mhm.
was intercepted 3 times,
Oh
and
wow.
linebacker Peyton Wilson pulled down two of the interceptions when I was there.
Okay.
So Wilson found himself around the ball a lot. It
Okay.
just so happened that Will Howard was very generous in throwing the ball his direction.
This is quarterback three, really, because Rudolph is still there.
True. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still very heated. It's a chance to be on that roster. Obviously, everyone's backing up a 48-year-old goofball of a man here, so they could wind up on the field. But it's exciting to hear that Aller is doing pretty well. What else do you have coming
Yeah,
up?
I think he is. I think he is the leg up there. I just from then you watch the training camp videos that fans are posting, and it's like you can see some momentum building. But you look at these two. The biggest storylines to me are the young
Yeah.
wide receivers who are
Okay.
just exploding in both camps.
Right. You wrote about Bernard, and we talked about Bernard last week. What's his first name? I'm drawing.
Jeremy Bernard.
Jeremy Bernard, and then Jacoby Lane in Baltimore. I guess let's start with Bernard because we're still in Pittsburgh. We talked about him before. Seems to me like the great possession receiver. Is that what you saw when you were there?
Yeah, just a guy who has a knack for getting open, and it just
Mhm.
seems like the ball found him. Whether it was Aaron Rodgers and he got a couple of reps with the first team, whether it was Aller or Rudolph or Will Howard, these quarterbacks trust him already, which is
Right.
really interesting for a young receiver to be a target monster in training camp, in a camp where you have DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman at the top of the depth chart, who you're trying to work out timing with and get a feel for how they're going to work. Here's Jeremy Bernard elbowing his way into the target share, into the rotation. And Michael Pittman Jr. called him a shifty player, and he's always
Uh-huh.
finding ways to get open. And, he's 200 pounds, but he plays faster than he looks. And Asante Samuel Jr. told me after practice that he thought that Bernard, if he keeps up this level like he's shown in training camp, he's going to contribute meaningful plays during the season this year as a rookie. So there's a lot of buzz about his ability to find ways to get open and then make big catches when the ball comes his way.
And he was a guy who I know took some Wildcat snaps last year in college. Somebody who would be used like, go into the backfield, run the reverse, do all these other little things. So you could see stuff like that there. If Arthur Smith was there, I would think, guaranteed they're going to do some weird thing where Bernard's going to be in the backfield, maybe the goal line tush push guy or something like that. Very big contrast to Jacoby Lane. And it's not just you, by the way, who's talking about Jacoby Lane. It is Jacoby Lane's season in Owings Mills, Maryland right now. This is a go deep, up the sidelines, jump high, rip ball away from defender type of receiver. That's what he was at USC. Sounds like that's what he is in Ravens camp.
You look at this guy walking on the field, and Jacoby Lane looks like your prototypical number one wide receiver. He looks the part, first of all. Big, long arms, lanky, tall, big target for the quarterback. And then he'll make a kind of catch along the sideline in a 7-on-7 drill where he goes against his body, comes back, makes a leaping one-handed catch, comes down and gets both feet in bounds, down. And it's like he'll make a circus catch like that. He'll break free down the sideline, deep downfield. Nate Wiggins draped on him one-on-one in coverage, and he'll still make the catch for the touchdown. Good separation speed, elite hands, big catch radius. And you talk to other Ravens reporters on the sideline, and they said this is what it's like every day. Every day he's making the circus catches look routine and look ordinary. The question's going to be, can he be a volume guy? Can he be somebody that you can throw to 6, 7, 8 times per game? Because they haven't really had that in Baltimore. It's been Zay Flowers, and we touched on it last week. Is Rashad Bateman ever going to be a guy? And,
No.
what's life like after Mark Andrews? And how many
Right.
times can you throw to Mark Andrews at this age and this stage of his career? But Jacoby Lane is doing it. And I think what's most impressive and why people are most excited about it is He's doing it every day against Nate Wiggins. He's doing it every day
Yeah.
against Kyle Hamilton. He's doing it every day. Chigobe Awuzie might not be quite on that level, but
No,
he's still a pretty damn good nickel cornerback. You're doing
right.
this against, Pro Bowl caliber defensive backs in practice every day as a third round rookie. And that just, the needle has to be pointing up and to the right for him right now.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a volume guy. He was not a volume guy at USC because Mekhi Lemon was there, and he was getting a lot of that attention and did more of the possession type of work. You look at the deep threat guy for Lamar Jackson. Now, sometimes it's been Zay Flowers. Zay's a smaller target, and he's also nifty shifty. They went end of career Nuke Hopkins, which you got a little bit out of. They got end of career Odell Beckham for a while. You got almost nothing out of him. It's been a while since there's been, I don't know who it was. Lamar had going up the sideline, getting the ball for him. It wasn't really that guy. Maybe it was Mark Andrews. I think I'm blanking on somebody. You add that and you say that he does the Alec Pierce thing. One a game, okay? 2 or 3 targets.
Yep.
One of them's the big play and then like a comeback route, whatever, etc. That really pops things open with Zay Flowers, with Derrick Henry in the backfield. That can be enough to kind of supercharge that offense.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that even, head coaches like to tamper down the hype and the excitement for guys during camp. Minter stepped to the podium. He's like, yeah, man, we have a big enough sample size now that it's starting to look consistent. Like, this is kind of what we're thinking it is. And he said that he had a conversation with Lamar Jackson, and he said, just keep throwing it to him. Throw it to him when he's covered. Throw it to him when he's wide open. Throw it to him when he's not wide open. Just keep throwing him the ball. So they're really making that concerted effort in August to develop that timing. So when they step on the field for week 1, he is that viable, high upside number 2 wide receiver opposite of Zay Flowers. Because as you said, this offense funnels through the running game in Derrick Henry. It funnels through Lamar Jackson, his escapability and his athleticism, making plays with his legs. It's been a while since they had that deep vertical threat. You add that element to it, and it kind of throws open what they can be offensively in ways that maybe we haven't seen there in a long, long time.
Gosh, if only someone told Jalen Hurts to just keep throwing it to A.J. Brown no matter what, whether he's open or not. Of course, I mean, it went pretty well a couple of years ago, so we can't complain too much here in Philadelphia. Matt, I'm going to admit right now that I have completely lost our outline. This might be the record for how quickly I can't find where we put our outline.
Okay.
Are we done with the with the Baltimore and the Steelers part here, and are we ready to go on to the next segment?
Let's go on to the next segment and talk about some of the news of the week out of the nation's capital, and some good news, some disastrous news for the Commanders. We'll start with the good and end with the bad so that Commanders fans can leave feeling terrible instead of feeling terrible and be built back up. But, Stephon Diggs signs last week with the Commanders, a move you and I called. We were all over this on the podcast last week. Great fit. Him and Terry McLaurin actually form a competent baseline receiver duo for Jaden Daniels. And what I like about this move is Drake May last season had a 113.9 passer rating when targeting Stephon Diggs, and his average depth of target was 8.7 yards. So reliable, catch radius, can stretch the field just enough. So when you have Jaden Daniels, a young quarterback entering year 3, who they tried every which way to RG for him last year, you get him that kind of weapon with that kind of upside. I dig it. I dig Stephon Diggs in Washington.
Right. And I was like, ooh, this is one you have to take seriously. Everything you described. He was the kind of guy, particularly for May, who, it's 3rd and 10. Here comes the 12-yard completion. Intermediate range, get open against tight coverage, be reliable, make those not necessarily huge plays, but those steady, important chain-moving type plays. That's who he is. I think that's who he still is. So that was a big move. So, like, on my do I care about the Commanders at all meter list, it was that meter was really low. And then Diggs got there and it got really high. And then the next piece of news happened and it kind of fell and rolled out into the gutter.
Yeah, and Diggs found a way to be that guy in a kind of crowded room, right? Because as much as they loved running the ball with Trevion Henderson, as much as, they loved to force the ball into the tight ends, you still had Kayshon Boutte, who had a bit of a breakout explosive season last year. You still had Mac Hollins, who was that field stretcher, get you 12, 14 yards per catch kind of guy. Mac Hollins was there last year. So Diggs was still productive. He was still that big play, reliable threat. Now you go down to Washington where it's him, Terry McLaurin, he could have an even bigger role this year.
And he wasn't a weirdo. He wasn't being a weirdo about it. Not that we know about. I mean, I know he was dating a variety of different famous women, and there was some problems with that. But in the locker room and everything else like that, there was never a problem with I am one of, part of a committee here, and that I'm no longer being asked to go up the sideline and catch 35-yard passes. That's someone else's role. He seemed comfortable with that. He seems comfortable with that kind of role now. Certainly, he's proven he's got a year of being a normal teammate in him at this point in his career. So all of that was very positive. Are we getting to the negative, or are we?
Wait, one more thing. I got to tweak you here.
Okay.
He's also 32 years old, Stefon Diggs. So he fits right in.
Okay. For those of you who do not follow me on Blue Sky, or do not follow the Commanders on Blue Sky, every time the Commanders sign somebody, they are 32 years old. Yeah. Now, in Stefon Diggs' case, it's like, well, it's a great receiver who might be on the downside of his career, but yes, at 32, he is productive. The number of 32-year-olds that they keep bringing in, Rivers Craycraft and Fabian Island of Dr. Moreau. And they brought in a backup offensive lineman today who's 30, but he feels like he's 32. All of these guys are 32 years old. And the fact that's exactly 32 is starting to freak me out. It's like a weird numerological thing, like that movie, The Number 23. It's the number 32. And it's starting to really weird me out.
Yeah. And I was trying to workshop this theory to put out a post on Blue Sky, and then I just put it back in the holster because I couldn't get across the finish line. I couldn't finish it, right?
Right.
But I like Adam Peters a lot. I think he's a bright guy, and obviously has the track record, coming from San Francisco and all those things. But the collecting 32-year-olds,
yes,
after all of the injury issues and collecting olds in San Francisco, it's like you imported all of the bad and not necessarily all of the good with you from the Bay Area.
It's like you're bringing all the guys you had on a wish list that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan said no to. You had them all on your little wish list, and now you're here, and no one can stop me from bringing in this guy. And Quinn seems on board with all these older players as well. But I don't know where it gets you because it continues clogging the pipeline. Now, it's one thing if these players are really productive, but that's not been the case. And of course, another older player got hurt a couple days after Diggs signed. I've been trying to set this up for the last 3 segments. Laremy Tunsil, probably out for the year. Left tackle, star left tackle, who played very, very well and was a big time signing, trade acquisition last year.
Trade acquisition, huge loss. I don't know that you can quantify losing Laremy Tunsil to that offense, right? Because, you talk about this being the pivotal year for Jaden Daniels. You just took away an all-pro caliber offensive tackle, right? I mean, what do you even do there? And the injury happens in August. So it's not like this happened in minicamp where he had a non-contact injury back in April or May, and you can, work the trade wire a little bit and try to find something. You're going to have to, at minimum, go shopping on cutdown day, right? At least for depth, try to figure out what you're going to do on the back end of that depth chart in a couple weeks here, right?
In the short term, Brandon Coleman, who was drafted to in the 3rd round in 2024, I think he started a bunch of games there. He moves up. So you do have somebody there who has a little bit of experience. Then you start looking at their bench right now, and I'm seeing names like Andrew Wiley, who played for years for Kansas City. Guess how old Andrew Wiley is?
35 and a half?
No, he's 32. He's 32 years of age, so he's on the bench. I don't know if he could play that position right now. Max Sharping, who is 30. Daniel Brunskill, who they just signed, is 30.
Friend of the pod, Daniel Brunskill. We've had him on a couple times. Good dude.
Oh, very, very, very cool. Yeah, so he's there. So he's going to be in the mix. I don't see there's solutions that are kind of get by type solutions there, but you go from a position of strength and also a position of depth, because when you had Coleman there, you say, well, if something happens, we have a guy who can get starts. He can also start on the right side. Now you're in a position of potential weakness. And it goes, when you trade and when you trade and sign all these older guys, it chokes your prospects out. So I don't know what Coleman is. If he had gotten the start last year, maybe he develops into a Pro Bowl left tackle. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he backslid because you don't get the reps and the opportunities. This is kind of part and parcel of the problem with the team. They have a guy who might be a partial solution there. We don't know. They don't know. They didn't act like he was, though, when they went out and they traded for a then 31-year-old offensive lineman.
Yeah, and a guy like Jeremy Tunsil falls into your lap. You kind of, in a vacuum, you have to make that
Exactly.
trade,
Yeah.
right? In a vacuum, you have to be the guy to upgrade that position that's so important to what offenses do. But when you're stacking 32-year-olds, to your point, and last year you're bringing in a Von Miller, and
Yeah.
you still have Zach
Right.
Ertz on the roster, and you still have all of these older bodies hanging around. Bobby Wagner was still there a year ago. You start to, as you said, choke out the player development side of it. Even if you draft well, these guys aren't getting first team reps in practice. They're certainly not getting game reps in the regular season. And you kind of leave yourself thin because you've invested in older players rather than drafting, developing, and playing your own guys.
That's right. And our old friend Zach Ertz, who was still playing at a high level until he got hurt.
Yeah.
You bring him in, and that's a useful player, and he's doing the job. You draft a Ben Sinnott. Now you're relying on Ben Sinnott to go out there and be your starter. I don't know what he's done. I don't know what those 2 years productive years for him. You don't have an answer to that. And it kind of hurts from a salary cap and budgeting standpoint, too, because a lot of those guys make a little more money, and then you don't have as much flexibility as you would have otherwise.
Oh, no doubt about it. And another team, another situation where it feels like things are just going from not great to much worse is Micah Parsons' situation with this pup list and when you expect him to return, because the initial thought this summer was he'll start the season on pup. It will be what it is. Then you had the update that it's looking like he'll miss the first month of the season, missing the first 4 weeks. Okay, that's understandable. The ACL tear happened in December. These things take time. Well, now there's sounding like the optimistic timeline is week 6. This just seems like it's trending in the wrong direction, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's not the timeline is not supposed to get further out as you go on. Now, I do think we reach a hard, I don't think he's out for the season or anything like that. But when you start saying optimistic week 6, and you say, well, that means there might be complications or this is going slowly. What are you getting week 6, week 7, week 8 out of Micah Parsons? How many weeks is it he's coming off the bench and doing 25 snap count situation? Okay. Now, elsewhere in Green Bay, Josh Jacobs is day-to-day with an injury. Matthew Golden has a toe thing, and he's been day-to-day. Jaden Reed has also been out. I'm not sure. I think that might just all be precautionary.
Savion Williams season, baby. Savion Williams reps coming.
Savion Williams, the frog, who's like a wildcat kind of guy, has been getting the starting reps there, as expected or whatever. Bo Melton is once again in the conversation for Green Bay. And it sounds like they have benched their guard prospect, Anthony Belton, who was penciled into one of the guard spots. They started rotating people around. And when the rotation cleared, it was Jacob Monk at guard at his spot, which sounds like they're not completely happy with him. I don't know what's going on with the left tackle, etc. But all the things that I suggested might go wrong based on the fact that I've lived on planet Earth for 55 years and I know how these things happen. All those things that seem to be going wrong are going wrong. The old running back's banged up. The guy was hurt last year is hurt this year. The guy who didn't win the starting job last year, didn't just win it by promotion. Handing it to him didn't make him better.
And who knows what's going to play out beyond day-to-day of training camp? But you didn't even mention this. Edrin Cooper is injured as well. He's dealing with an injury. And that's their playmaking linebacker who they're so excited about. They went out and they got Zaire Franklin to drop alongside him. Hey, see ball carrier, get ball carrier, so that we can send Edrin Cooper on exotic blitz packages and we can freelance him in coverage. We just need that steady, reliable force next to him. That's what Zaire Franklin's going to be. Edrin Cooper now banged up. And Mike, I just, before we went on the air, I looked at the first 6 weeks of the Packers schedule just for funsies. Like if those are the only 6 games that Micah Parsons misses.
It's not that bad though, right? It's not, go through
Well, at Vikings and Brian Flores, not great.
Right.
At East Rutherford bye week against the Jets. Falcons at home, not that bad. At Tampa, could be a little bit dicey. Then you got Bears at Packers. And ideally, that's the game you want Micah Parsons back for. And then you get the Cowboys at home. Okay. So you're looking at like 3 to 4, like, toss-up at best situations where you're going to not have on the field potentially your game-altering pass rush presence. suboptimal, I think, for Matt LaFleur's squad there.
Yeah, the difference between 4 and 6 makes a difference. Because I remember when I
Yeah.
thought it was 4 looking, I was like, oh, they got the Jets and the Falcons in there. They're probably going to be fine. And now you put that Bears game in there. And, the famous thing that I heard from so many, Packers experts, it's like, well, Caleb Williams makes this play because Rashawn Gary can't get to him in that game. Like Rashawn Gary is late getting to him. Well, now there's no Gary anymore, guys, and there's no Parsons. So good luck with Lucas Van Ness running fast in a straight line and right past Caleb Williams. Good luck with that.
And that's why I'm so ridiculously skeptical about this Packers situation, and especially the pass rush without Micah Parsons, right? Because last year, 79 total pressures, 14 sacks. If you watch the Prime Vision feed with the overhead all 22 of that Thursday night game against the Commanders, you just see Micah Parsons being used all over the place. It was like Prime Vision was made for Micah Parsons, and the impact that he made, even when he didn't get the sack, was immense. I mean, you altered the play so many times. It had that trickle-on effect for the rest of the defense. So now you're going into potentially the first 6 weeks of the season where you have not one but 2 division games against the Vikings, against the Bears, the Cowboys that are going to be no pushovers. I'm going to talk about that in a moment here because I have a point to make there. But I'm really skeptical that you're going to be able to piece together a pass rush around Lucas Van Ness, Barron Sorrell, fourth-round rookie Dennis Sutton, trying to hold it down when last season Sorrell and Van Ness combined, 2 dudes combined for 4 sacks and 29 pressures all year. And we know Jonathan Gannon is going to have all kinds of crazy blitz concepts and rush packages. But they're going to have to hold on for dear life against Caleb, against Kyler Murray potentially, against that passing game in Tampa. It just seems like this could get dicey pretty quickly the longer Micah Parsons is sidelined.
We're really leaning on and Jonathan Gannon is going to dial up so much stuff. It's like, yes, because the Cardinals the last couple of years, all we saw was nonstop heroics from those defenses that he put together. Sure, okay, fine. But hey, good news out of Green Bay. Tucker Kraft is healthy.
Yeah, that's good.
Every video of the good news video I see out of the Green Bay Packers is that Tucker Kraft is healthy. So he'll play 6 positions, including be the best tight end in football, also the number 2 receiver, maybe play left tackle or guard. We'll say everything will be fine because Tucker Kraft, when you make him the highest paid tight end in the universe, will play all of those positions for you. I'm sorry.
He's the salve for the whole thing.
He's the salve. Yes, don't worry. Don't worry. Your tight end will be fine, and that means everything else will be fine.
Yeah. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a slog. And it just seems like they needed this to get through this camp healthy. No team ever gets through training camp fully healthy. It just doesn't happen. But they put themselves behind such an 8 ball with all of the talent that they let walk out of the building. You don't bring back Quay Walker. All of a sudden, if Edwin Cooper's banged up, where do you turn to, right? You trade away Rashawn Gary like he's, yesterday's bag of donuts.
Yes.
You're relying on Barron Sorrell and Dennis Sutton. I like Denai. Watched him a lot at Penn State, high motor guy. He was a 4th-round pick for a reason here. And you're going to ask him to play meaningful snaps as a rookie.
Right. And you got rid of Kingsley Enagbare too. So it's like,
yeah.
Oh, and the starter and the backup and the other guy. And then you commit to the guys on your bench. And I keep saying this, folks, it's not the Madden algorithm. When you draft somebody in the 1st round, the computer doesn't up his stats while he's sitting on the bench. That's not how it works. Sometimes these players do not pan out. And when they've demonstrated, like Van Ness, over multiple seasons, like, he's been passed on the depth chart by the other guy and the other guy and the other guy. Sure, there's a chance they break out. More often than not, they're telling you that this is what they are, the situational player, role player, not somebody you can count on to be the 1st-round pick you hope they would be.
Not to mention, I don't love their corners. I think their corners are full of Jags, just the guys. Safeties are great. Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams both could potentially be Pro Bowlers this year. I'm just very skeptical of their corners. And now you're asking average-ish cornerbacks to hold on for dear life without the impact of the pass rush that you built your whole defense on. It just seems like it could be a struggle. It could be a slog in Green Bay early on if Micah Parsons is out for those games.
I've been saying it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yes, you have.
Speaking of the Cowboys, you got a Cowboys note.
Yes, Quinton Williams got paid. As his agent Nicole Lynn posted on social media yesterday, does anybody have a Brinks truck after agreeing to terms with Jerry Jones? 3 years, $105.9 million to Quinton Williams, a centerpiece of that defense locked up long term. And I think this has really interesting undertones, if you will, to last season's Micah Parsons trade.
That's what I say. The Cowboys have money now for the older guy, not the younger guy, but they have money now for Williams, who, again, I think, while I think he's officially listed as an end, is probably capitalizing on what we think of as the defensive tackle market to a degree.
For sure. And, I peek behind the curtain here. I do a weekly podcast appearance with a podcast based out of Syracuse. Okay. And last week they asked me if the Cowboys may actually come out winning the Micah Parsons trade. And I kind of scoffed at that because I'm like, all right, you're kind of retooling and rebuilding and reshuffling defensively in Dallas. In Green Bay, it's Super Bowl or bust. And I think that Parsons went healthy with the young roster, with Jordan Love. I think they have a window in Green Bay if everything goes right, but it hasn't gone right. But, you start to think about it. And you tell me, I'm going to make the case to you. You have Quinton Williams now. You were able to trade. They draft Malachi Lawrence with the Micah Parsons pick, which resets both the financial and the age clock at pass rusher. They had Caleb Downs fall into their lap with their own pick in the draft. And at least on paper, right? Am I crazy to think that this has the chance to be at least an average, maybe an above average defense? Like, say what you will about Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary's a competent, at least rotational pass rusher. You got Kenny Clark to stop the run in the Micah Parsons trade. And when you have an average to above average defense with that offense and Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, and they're going to light up the scoreboard, like, if you're average to above average on defense, you have a chance to be pretty good in Dallas, right?
I'm holding up right now a book called the Aaron Schatz's FTN Football Almanac 2026. Let me see if I can read this right now. Was Jerry Jones right? The Cowboys, as you recall, traded Micah Parsons last August. It goes on for a little bit. This author has a chance, tends to babble a little bit. But then it goes on to list in bullet points, which I'm holding up, all the people that the Cowboys got in exchange for Micah Parsons, kind of like what you just did. Now, this author is a fellow by the name of, you may have heard of him, Mike Tanier. So the argument, I think, is the fact that I wrote way too many words about this. It's an argument worth exploring because so much came back to the Cowboys. Because if you start looking at how they traded down with some of these picks and got some of these Malachi Lawrence type guys, it adds to that. And then you can say, well, they also saved all that money. Now, some of that money is now in the Williams extension. Some of it went out to some of the rank and file, like cornerbacks and safeties, Jalen Thompson.
And there's an argument to be made that Quinton Williams is a type of ascending player that you want to lock up long term. So you're just shuffling the money from Micah Parsons to Quinton Williams while creating the flexibility to add all of the other guys, all of the potential defensive playmakers to possibly foster a quick turnaround on defense.
Right. Now, at some point, it also looks like we traded one blue chip for how many white chips? And that becomes the other question. Like, we have this one super special thing, or you can have 5,000 of these common things. Most people will be like, wait, the 5,000 common things might not be as good. You don't want like 3,000 boxes of comic books. You want Action Comics #1. That's what you want. But it changes when it's like, well, it's not 3,000 boxes. What's in there happens to be Amazing Spider-Man #5 and a Daredevil #3 or an X-Men #1 or whatever. So we know there's good stuff in the boxes too. And this is your big special thing. It does start to tilt the conversation a little bit. You don't want to give the Cowboys too much credit, but you also don't want to do the thing that I'm guilty of, you're guilty of, we're all guilty of, which is LOL Cowboys, ROTFL Cowboys, Jerry's a nitwit, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think the Micah Parsons trade was a smart move by any stretch of the imagination. It destroyed last season to a degree. But at least coming out of it, they've amortized and mitigated it and turned it into enough resources on the other end that you can say, okay, they can move forward from this with what they've acquired and put together.
Yeah, you talk about the boxes of comic books. There were empty boxes at some of these
Right.
positions before, right?
Yeah.
And now you have guys that you can at least look at and say that there's a plan here.
Right.
And they're always going to win on offense. They're always going to be the team that scores 30 points per game, but they're going to give up 35 to 37.
Yes.
That might not be the case this year with
Right.
the additions that they made, and they gave up a lot of points with Micah Parsons, and I don't want to be in the position to defend Jerry Jones because I think that Micah Parsons is the piece that ultimately,
Right.
in the next 2 or so years, puts the Packers over the top to win a Super Bowl. I don't know that all of the pieces in Dallas are going to be enough to make that kind of an impact, but I do respect that they didn't just sit on that money. I do
Right.
respect that they didn't just spend it on a 32-year-old offensive tackle, that they didn't go
Right.
the Commanders route, that it seems like there's a vision and a plan that they're trying to reset things and restock what had been an empty cupboard, even with Micah Parsons being there.
That's the case. I think the Cowboys are a team that have to be taken seriously before and after this deal. And it's a recognition of the fact that, yes, they often do things right and are usually a dangerous team. We'll see what happens if they self-destruct, but they don't look like they're self-destructing right now.
And that division is going to be wild because
Right.
the Eagles are the Eagles, and I think that they're kind of in that middle ground where they've drafted really well over the last few years. They have this core group of veterans, but what's the offense going to look like?
Right.
And what does it look like in 2027 and 2028? Either way, whether this goes well or goes poorly,
Right.
you have the Commanders, who we spent a lot of time on, and the Giants. We're going to see the Giants on Thursday. We're both going to be up there at training camp. We might do a mini pod afterwards. But what are you looking to see? Because I think the Giants could sneakily be really interesting and maybe even competitive this year.
We've got all during the offseason, we've had this roller coaster of the Giants because they had a really productive early offseason and we were excited. And then, of course, Malik Neighbors' injury, and then we're not excited. And then Neighbors looks like he's going to be able to play whatever. We're going to get more. We might not be getting the full story, so to speak, of what's going on with Neighbors. Maybe we'll see a little bit more. I want to see Jackson Dart because Jackson Dart did not really impress me except early on when it was like exciting to see the new guy. And I think it's kind of funny because one of the big stories that's been coming out in the last couple of days is the Slide Jackson slide story, where there's all kinds of enthusiasm when Jackson Dart actually slides and coaches are employing him to slide, etc. I want to see a little base running practice when I'm up there in East Rutherford. I want to see if the lad has figured out get out of bounds, slide. Obviously, no one can touch you in training camp. That doesn't mean you can't practice, go through the rep of what you're doing. Is I ran 10 yards up the middle of the field and I did my, I'm trying to name somebody who slides. I'm so bad at baseball now.
Ricky Henderson, he
Ricky
slid a lot when he was
Henderson,
alive.
I know who he was. He's still playing, right?
I think he's dead, but okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
It's all right. You're not a baseball guy. It's okay. I let you do a poisonous well right there. That was on me. I shouldn't have let you down. I should have led you down that path. It's okay. But I get it. Yeah.
Am I dead? What do you want to see in Giants camp?
I want to say we hear all this talk about John Harbaugh as apparently like grinding these guys into the ground. That it's been this like really physical camp and a bunch of bumps and bruises are starting to mount. Like I want to see what that attitude is looking like and if the physicality is translating there. Because growing up last summer, it was like a 3-ring circus. It was like the carnival came into town. Everybody was so pumped to be there. It was the good ship Dable was up there. Everybody was so fired up about Jackson Dart, and Russell Wilson was rejuvenated, and Tommy Cutlets. They had all these guys who were competent quarterbacks, and it was going to be great. All these quarterbacks are awesome. Well, it didn't quite pan out that way. And it seems like they just want to like punch you in the teeth. And they have the tools to punch you in the teeth with that pass rush. And they got better on defense overall. They got better at offensive tackle. I want to see if we're going to see some fights. Like, are we going to see some like training camp fights? Like, they're not at the Greenbrier. They're not down in the hills of West Virginia, and it's all scenic. And even when you're pissed off at the guy across from you, how mad can you really be? Because you look up and you got like the hills and the mountains there, and take me home, country roads, right? You're in East Rutherford. Will we see that physicality really translate in practice? And what does it look like? What does it sound like coming from players about this new culture there?
Were you there when the coaches fought?
I was not.
Okay. Okay. I was just wondering if you saw that particular. That was a couple years ago. Anyway, but yeah, it is a different environment in East Rutherford when the bugs are stinging at your ankles and things like that. It's just a heat dome there. Wouldn't mind seeing a little physicality, seeing a little hitting. I'm a little shaken because I did just check, and yes, Ricky Henderson passed away in
Yeah.
2024, and it's just hitting me now. Other people have had time to adapt to this, but rest in power, Ricky. Excited to see that. What's next? What do you got? What do we have what's even happening right now?
Well, we're going to get to your preseason viewing guide. Are there games that you are watching, that you're tuned in for this week? Is this what's coming up on the Two Deep Zone? I need a viewing guide. I need to go over to my coffee table and get the TV guide out and figure out which games I need to care about this week.
Well, here's the thing. You said it right. We're sickos. You watch some of it, then you go read a book. You watch some and you play with the kids a little bit and watch some Bluey. That's usually the way to do it. A couple of games on Thursday night. I think we talked about how on Friday night you're going to see a little bit of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Yeah. And the thing I put on the schedule was blunted a little bit because here's the big thing. Saturday, 1 o'clock. On the NFL Network, the Browns will be playing. So if you want to go into sicko mode to see Deshaun and see Shedeur and see Dylan Gabriel and try to prognosticate for yourself how that's going to go, Deshaun's going to win. They picked him in March. But if you want to see how that's really going to go, you watch that. Now, simultaneously at 1 o'clock on Saturday, if you have NFL Plus or any other way of doing this, the Vikings are playing. I forget who they're playing against right now. I can pull it up, but I'm sorry. I got rid of that particular screen. But you could have seen J.J. McCarthy, Kyler Murray. You might still see them. You might get a look at...
It's Vikings-Giants. You get Vikings-Giants at 1 o'clock. So you get J.J., but you get Kyler Murray against the Giants.
Right, and you might see a little Jackson in that game. We'll know more. Probably we'll get told who's going to play there. But you'll see a little bit of that as well. So Saturday at 1 o'clock, you'll see the two big quarterback controversies, one of which has been tamped down, but you'll still probably want to see what's going on there. And then it's preseason football from 1 till about 2. You'll see all you need to see of that. Then go on with your life.
Go to the pool.
Yeah, go to the pool. The rest of it will be there when you get back. And come probably Monday morning, I don't know when you plan to write next, you and I will be there with all the updates, all the action. So
I'm gonna have to check in on the NFL Plus replays of Saturday's games because it's my wedding anniversary. So the last place I'm gonna be is in the command center watching third stringers versus fourth stringers.
Wow.
But I need you to help me with something here.
Yes.
So you've gone out to dinner. You've dined with me in the past. You know what kind of a picky eater I am, right?
It's you when it's you. And I'm not going to call out, but there's another Matt out there in the world. And the two of you are not just picky, but you are picky on the exact opposite things. We are eating chicken fingers. I know we're just eating chicken fingers when it's you guys, but you are particularly picky. So what's going on here?
So I've turned 40. And I've aimed to it used to just be the default. If I've never had it before, that means I don't like it, which is why I'm picky.
Yes.
I should have probably worked that out in therapy 15 years ago, but I'm 40 and I'm just deciding now that, hey, if I haven't tried it, let's just try it. I don't want to die tomorrow and never eat a steak. And I've never eaten a steak. So
you've never eaten a steak.
So that's where we're going here because we were given an obscenely large gift card as a gift. Right. And we're planning on using it going out on Saturday night, using this gift card at one of the steakhouses down in Philly. And I've decided this is when I'm going to try the steak. This is when I'm going to try to eat the steak for the first time. And I've looked at this establishment's menu and they have something I'm really excited about, but I don't know if it should be the first steak.
Okay.
Right. It's a New York strip. Yes. But it's it's rubbed with the Kona coffee rub. And I love coffee. I love things that are buttery and all those sort of things. So I'm imagining a buttery coffee adjacent flavor profile on the steak, New York strip. Mm-hmm. Should I go with what I'm excited about and order this? Or is there a better option for a cheeseburger loving, never had a steak before, red-blooded male?
There's so much unpacking to do here.
I know there is.
Who got you the gift certificate to the steakhouse?
It was actually it's one of my wife's. She's a teacher. One of the families at the end of the
Oh,
year gives an appreciation gift to the teachers, and we were floored by when she opened up the envelope.
that's amazing. That's wonderful. So it's not a close relative, say in-law, who is trying to set you up in some way to force you to eat steak.
No, it's a
Okay.
testament to how elite she is at her job that
Yes.
people care enough about her and the impact that she made doing
Right.
what she does best that they would give us this sort of a gift. But no,
Right.
they were not trying to like set me up to go and order a cheeseburger.
Right. When you've gone to steakhouses in the past, you've ordered cheeseburgers.
No. I usually do like the lobster tail. I'll get
Okay,
like
well, not too bad.
the twin lobster tails, which is what I would probably go with now. But I'm trying to mature and become more refined in my 40s.
Well,
It's the new Matt.
as a non-seafood eater, like lobster tail's a perfectly good one. You get through life, no one questions you. You don't look like the guy who's ordering the burger at
Right.
40 at the place. So you've got yourself covered in that place. So get that steak. If it's the steak that excites you, then you should definitely go with it. Don't be afraid to order medium well or even well. I wouldn't go well, but medium well. Don't listen to the steak people who are like, you have to get it medium rare, etc. It's your first steak. Okay. You might be put off by how much chewing and stuff like that is involved with it. And I'm going to give you advice that I would give a 6-year-old or the parent of a 6-year-old. Cut it extremely thin. Okay. Very small strips so that and chew, because you might be surprised by how much chewing you have to do on a steak if it's your first steak when you're age 40.
That's good knowledge. See, I would have not known that. Medium well was what I was planning going into this with because
Yes.
I order my burgers medium well.
Right.
So yeah, but the thin cuts and the chew on the New York strip, I think that's the move. I think that's
Right.
how we experience this and have a good experience, so that maybe
Yeah.
I'll actually enjoy steaks for the latter half of my life.
Your wife is an educator, so she knows the Heimlich maneuver.
She does, yes.
You said she does way too quick there, like as if it's been done to you.
Not to me, but
Okay, never mind.
I've witnessed it.
I'm prying too much, so we're under. Really getting deep. I like when you were talking about going to therapy at age 25, and it's like that might have been good for all of us. That might have been good for all of us at this point. I don't think therapy existed when I was 25, but yes, fair enough. But no, go there, get this steak, enjoy it, and that's a good opportunity to broaden your horizons a little bit. By the way, you'll
Yeah.
probably be out of commission for the rest of the night in terms of digesting the steak. It's very tricky to digest, so be ready to just kind of hit the couch afterwards.
Sounds like a plan.
Watch some preseason.
Watch some preseason football.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful.
All right, so we'll be up in East Rutherford on Thursday. Looking forward to that. It should be a ton of fun. First training camp for you in a little bit, right? Since you've been out boots on the ground.
It's been so long. I think it was 2023, which is still pretty long. And it's exciting. I want to see some hitting again. I saw some hitting at the Senior Bowl and everything. I want to see a little bit of hitting again.
I'm excited for that. What else do we have coming up on the Two Deep Zone?
Well, again, we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming games. I think Thursday we're going to be posting that. And then on Monday, I'm going to pretend it was a real NFL Sunday, even though it was more of a NFL Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and give you as much coverage of what was going on. Any starters that played, any interesting rookies that played, any undrafted free agents from Connecticut. Did you see that kid, Joe Fagnano, in Baltimore, the 4th-string quarterback? Did you see him at all?
Did not see much of him, or didn't take notice.
He look him up because it looks like the Ravens went and tried to find the young Joe Flacco lookalike contest winner. I found Joey Fagnano to replace Joey Flacco, and just look up the visuals of him. He is my spiritual nephew now.
Awesome.
Yeah, but we'll steal it from Yukon by way of Maine, by way of Williamsport, by way of Little Italy.
Williamsport, my mother's hometown. So shout out to Williamsport, home of the Little League World Series. So we'll have the practice recap, the postcard on Thursday coming out of practice, the mailbag on Friday. 4 Downs will have a bit of a deeper dive into the Giants situation and some surprises. I'll try to get into my preseason takeaways Monday as well. We'll try to communicate so we don't overlap and profile the same rising 4th-round picks and such. But it's preseason.
Preseason. We're going to talk about the same guys. You and 30 other people. Jacoby Lane, man. It's like, yeah, that's what we have to do. If it's real, it's real. It's news. People, more than one person reports if there's like an earthquake. It's not just one guy's exclusive. You know what I'm saying? God.
He's Mike Tanier. Go subscribe to the Two Deep Zone. It's mandatory reading. It's appointment reading every Monday throughout the week. Follow him on Blue Sky at Mike Tanier. Please go ahead and subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store, on iHeartRadio, and Amazon Alexa app to the Between the Hashmarks podcast, and really trying to grow my presence on YouTube. Check us out there at Matt Lombardo 975, and of course, subscribe to BetweenTheHashmarks.com. It's a really great time, Mike, to have people subscribe, either as free subscribers to the Two Deep Zone, paid subscribers to the Two Deep Zone, subscribers to BetweenTheHashmarks.com. Season starting up, independent journalism. We're the ones footing the bill for the gas and the hotels and all those things on the training camp tour. Your support allows us to host this podcast every week and do the kind of exclusive reporting and analysis that you've come to know and love and expect from both of us.
Absolutely. Your support means a lot to us, especially at the end of a podcast. When I start fading and getting dark and weird, you sustain me. You sustain us.
Well, I'll see you on Thursday, partner, and we will talk to you guys next week on the Between the Hashmarks podcast. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you from the swamps of Jersey.
Take care, everybody.